Here's the thing. When it comes to twin flame telepathy, it feels like something that's happening beyond your control, right? Almost as if you're connected on a level that defies logic, like a silent conversation happening deep in your mind without an invitation. You may be in the middle of your day, doing something completely unrelated, and suddenly, their presence just appears in your thoughts. Unspoken words, emotions that don't seem to belong to you, or this subtle, yet undeniable pull. It's both fascinating and, at times, exhausting. So, how do you stop it? Is it even possible to turn off something that feels so rooted in the very fabric of your being? The answer isn't necessarily about shutting it down, but more about shifting your relationship with the connection itself. First, let's recognize something important. Twin flame telepathy isn't just about thoughts. It's energetic. It's emotional. It's that deep, invisible current that flows between you. And because it's energetic, control starts within. It's less about trying to block them out entirely and more about setting boundaries, energetic boundaries. Think of it like tuning a radio. The signal is still out there, but you have the power to adjust how clearly you're tuned into it. One of the simplest yet most powerful tools is grounding yourself. When you're caught in the web of twin flame telepathy, it's easy to get lost in your head or feel overwhelmed by emotions that aren't fully yours. Grounding brings you back into your own body, your own energy. Imagine roots growing from the soles of your feet deep into the earth, anchoring you, reminding you that you are here, in your space, in your reality. Breathing helps too. Not just shallow, surface-level breaths, but those deep, intentional inhales and exhales that slow your nervous system and bring you into the present moment. With each breath, you can almost visualize pulling your energy back to yourself, reclaiming what's yours, and releasing anything that doesn't belong to you. It's subtle, but over time, it shifts your awareness. It's like saying, "This is my space, and I choose what I allow into it." You might also find it helpful to mentally create a boundary, like a golden light surrounding you. Every time you feel that telepathic pull, you can visualize this light gently shielding your mind and heart, not in a way that cuts you off entirely, but in a way that gives you space. It's like closing a door, not locking it, but closing it so you're not constantly exposed. And it's okay if this process feels imperfect. Twin flame connections are intense by nature. There's a reason they're often described as mirrors, because they reflect not only the love and potential we carry, but also our fears, wounds, and unhealed parts. Telepathy is just one of the ways that connection manifests, often serving as a catalyst for growth, healing, or understanding. So, rather than viewing it as something you need to fight against, it might help to see it as an opportunity, a signal guiding you towards something within yourself that needs attention. Sometimes, though, the connection feels too much. Maybe it brings up pain, longing, or memories you'd rather not revisit. In those moments, it's completely valid to say, "I need a break," whether through meditation, journaling, or simply speaking it out loud. You can set that intention. "I choose to disconnect for now." Remember, just because you're energetically connected doesn't mean you have to be constantly available. Also, pay attention to what's triggering the telepathy. Is it more active during certain times, when you're feeling stressed, lonely, or nostalgic? Often, twin flame telepathy becomes louder when there's an emotional charge. By identifying what's fueling it, you can begin to take back your power. Maybe it's about acknowledging feelings you've been avoiding or releasing expectations tied to the connection. It's a process of reclaiming your own inner harmony. And while it might seem counterintuitive, acceptance can be a powerful way to loosen the grip of telepathy. Instead of resisting it, What if you allowed it to be there without attaching to it? Just like clouds passing in the sky, you notice them, but you don't have to hold on to them. This doesn't mean you're inviting the connection to consume you. It means you're choosing not to fight what you can't fully control. Paradoxically, acceptance often leads to freedom. It's also worth remembering that, at its core, telepathy thrives on energy. The more you dwell on it, react to it, or feed it with attention, the stronger it becomes. So, engaging in activities that redirect your focus can help. Dive into creative outlets. Spend time in nature. Surround yourself with people who ground you. The goal isn't distraction, it's integration. It's about coming back to yourself, fully and completely. Finally, be gentle with yourself. This journey, whether you call it a twin flame path, a soul connection, or something else entirely, is deeply personal. There's no right or wrong way to navigate it. If you find that telepathy continues despite your best efforts, know that it's okay. You're not failing. You're simply human, experiencing something profoundly spiritual. The key is to keep returning to yourself over and over again until the connection no longer feels like something that controls you, but something you can choose how to engage with or not. Because ultimately, the most important relationship you have is with yourself. And when you nurture that relationship, everything else, twin flames, telepathy, and all begins to find its proper place. You don't have to force the connection to stop. You just have to come home to yourself. And in doing so, you naturally create the balance you need. Does that make sense? It's less about cutting off and more about reclaiming your own space. You already have the power. It's about remembering that you do. There's something really profound about the moment you realize that you don't have to be tethered to an experience just because it feels intense or cosmic. With twin flame telepathy, it's easy to fall into the belief that because this connection feels otherworldly, it somehow has dominion over you. But the truth is, you always have sovereignty over your own energy. And sometimes, it's about stepping back into that truth, reminding yourself that while the connection may be real, it doesn't define your existence. Now, here's where things get tricky. The mind loves to latch onto patterns, especially those that feel mysterious or significant. Telepathy often thrives on this mental fixation. You feel them thinking of you, or you sense an emotional wave that doesn't quite feel like yours. And suddenly your mind is consumed by questions. Why are they thinking of me now? What does this mean? Are they trying to tell me something? The mind begins to spin stories, and before you know it, you're deep in this energetic entanglement again. So part of breaking the cycle is learning to observe those moments without engaging in them. When you sense the telepathic connection flare up, instead of diving into the thoughts or emotions, try to just notice them, almost like you're watching a ripple in a pond. You don't have to follow the ripple to its source. You can simply let it be. This practice can feel strange at first. After all, when something feels as personal as telepathy, it's hard not to react. But over time, this non-engagement creates space. It sends a subtle but powerful message. I acknowledge this, but I don't have to give it all of my energy. It helps to remind yourself that telepathy, like all energetic experiences, ebbs and flows. There will be moments when it feels incredibly strong and moments when it fades into the background. These fluctuations don't always mean something significant. Sometimes, they're just part of the energetic rhythm between you and your twin flame. And when you can accept that rhythm without trying to decode every wave, you start to reclaim your peace. Another thing to consider is that twin flame telepathy often acts as a mirror for what's happening within you. If the connection feels overwhelming or invasive, it might be reflecting an inner state of imbalance. Maybe there's something within you that feels unresolved, grief, longing, or uncertainty. By turning inward and addressing those feelings directly, you can reduce the intensity of the telepathic connection. It's as if, by healing your own energy, you naturally soften the energetic thread between you and your twin flame. That's the beautiful paradox of this journey. The more you focus on yourself, your healing, your growth, your inner balance, the less power the external connection holds over you. And ironically, it's often in those moments of self-focus that the connection either transforms into something more peaceful or begins to fade altogether. Now, I get it, this isn't easy. When you're deeply connected to someone, especially in a way that feels spiritual or destined, it's hard not to get pulled in. There's this magnetic quality to twin flames that makes it feel impossible to fully let go. But letting go doesn't have to mean severing the connection entirely. It can simply mean loosening your grip, letting things be as they are without trying to control or decode them. One way to support this process is through daily grounding rituals. These don't have to be elaborate. Something as simple as sitting quietly for 5 minutes with your feet on the ground, breathing deeply, and visualizing yourself surrounded by a calming light can make a huge difference. The goal is to create a sense of stability within yourself, so that when telepathy flares up, you have a steady foundation to return to. Journaling can also be a powerful tool. When you feel that telepathic connection spark, instead of getting lost in your mind, try writing down what you're experiencing. You might find that by putting it into words, you release some of the mental and emotional tension. And over time, journaling can help you notice patterns. Times when the connection feels stronger or weaker, triggers that seem to amplify it, and your own emotional responses. This kind of awareness is key, because the more conscious you become of the connection, the less power it has to control you. And then there's forgiveness. This part is huge. Whether you're consciously aware of it or not, twin flame connections often carry deep emotional wounds, not just from this lifetime, but possibly from past ones too. Telepathy can act as a bridge for those unhealed wounds, bringing old pain to the surface. Forgiveness isn't about excusing hurtful behavior. It's about freeing yourself from the emotional charge that keeps you tied to the past. Forgiveness can take many forms. Sometimes it's a quiet moment of acknowledging your pain and saying, "I choose to let this go." Other times, it's a more active process of working through emotions and memories. But each time you practice forgiveness, toward yourself, toward your twin flame, or toward the situation as a whole, you're releasing energetic cords that keep the telepathy alive. Ultimately, the journey of stopping twin flame telepathy, or at least softening its grip, comes down to self-empowerment. It's about realizing that you have a choice in how you engage with this connection. Yes, it may feel cosmic and destined, but that doesn't mean you have to lose yourself in it. You can honor the connection without letting it consume you. You can acknowledge the bond without being defined by it. And maybe, just maybe, twin flame telepathy isn't something you need to stop entirely. Maybe it's something you can learn to live with in a way that feels balanced, peaceful, and aligned. Because at the end of the day, the twin flame journey isn't about another person. It's about you. It's about your growth, your healing, your evolution. And when you make yourself the center of your own universe, everything else, including telepathy, finds its rightful place. You are whole. You are powerful. And you have everything you need within you to navigate this journey with grace. So, the next time that telepathic connection flares up, take a deep breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Come back to yourself. And remember, you are always in control of your own energy. Always. The beauty of reclaiming your energy is that it starts to create this spaciousness within you, an openness that wasn't there when the connection felt overwhelming. You begin to realize that the intensity of the telepathy wasn't just about them. It was also about the parts of you that were waiting to be seen, acknowledged, and healed. In a way, twin flame telepathy acts as a messenger, bringing you back to yourself again and again until you're fully rooted in your own essence. It's like tending a garden. For a while, the connection might feel like this wild, overgrown vine wrapping around every corner of your mind and heart. But the more you nurture your inner world, the more you clear out the weeds, create boundaries, and allow space for what truly serves your growth. Over time, the vine begins to calm. It no longer dominates. It becomes a quiet presence, something you can appreciate from afar without letting it take over. One of the most transformative aspects of this journey is learning to trust yourself. When telepathy feels invasive, it's easy to question your own instincts, to wonder if what you're sensing is real or imagined, if you're supposed to act on it or simply let it pass. But here's the thing. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to decode every signal or figure out what's coming from them versus what's arising from you. Trust that whatever shows up is simply part of the process, and trust yourself to navigate it in your own way, in your own time. And let's talk about trust for a moment. Not just trust in yourself, but trust in the greater flow of life. Twin flame connections often awaken this deep longing for clarity, closure, or resolution. You might feel an urgency to figure it all out so that you can move on or find peace. But peace doesn't come from having all the answers. It comes from surrendering to the mystery, from trusting that whatever unfolds is exactly what's meant to unfold, even if it doesn't make sense in the moment. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing your grip, softening your expectations, and allowing yourself to be present with what is. When telepathy arises, instead of resisting it or trying to make it go away, try this, pause, breathe, say to yourself, this too is part of my journey. Then gently bring your focus back to the present. What's around you? What can you feel, see, or hear in this moment? By anchoring yourself in the now, you remind your mind and energy that you are safe, that you don't need to chase after the connection or push it away. And in that presence, something beautiful begins to happen. The telepathy, which once felt like this overwhelming force, starts to lose its charge. You realize it's not as all-consuming as it seemed. It's simply an experience, one that comes and goes like waves on the shore. And like the ocean, you don't need to control the waves. You just need to find your footing in the sand. You might also find that as you deepen your connection with yourself, the telepathy begins to shift. It may not disappear entirely, but its nature changes. Instead of feeling like a constant pull or invasion, it becomes a quieter, more subtle thread, something you can tune into or tune out of depending on your energy and focus. It's like learning to control the volume on a radio. And the more you practice, the more natural it becomes. There's also a profound sense of empowerment that comes from recognizing that the twin flame connection isn't here to trap you. It's here to liberate you. It's here to teach you about love, not just the love you might share with another, but the love that flows within you, endlessly. When you begin to see the connection as a teacher rather than a tether, the whole dynamic shifts. You're no longer a passive participant being swept along by the intensity. You're an active creator, choosing how you engage with the energy. And that's the heart of this journey, choice. You get to choose what you focus on, how you respond, and what kind of relationship you want to have with this connection. You're not at the mercy of it. You're a powerful, conscious being, fully capable of shaping your own experience. So, what does choosing yourself look like in practice? It might mean setting aside time each day to check in with yourself, to ask, what do I need right now? It could mean creating a morning ritual that grounds you, like sipping tea while journaling, stretching, or meditating. It might look like seeking out activities or people that bring you joy and remind you of who you are outside of the connection. And it's not about distraction or avoidance. It's about filling your life with so much of you that there's less space for the connection to dominate. When you're deeply rooted in your own life, your own purpose, your own joy, the telepathic pull begins to feel less significant. You might still notice it, but it no longer feels like it has control over you. Instead, it becomes just one of many currents flowing through your life, something you can acknowledge without losing yourself in it. Remember, too, that twin flame connections often highlight areas where we need to grow. If telepathy is causing discomfort or distress, it might be pointing you towards something within yourself that's asking for attention. Perhaps it's a need for stronger boundaries, a call to heal old wounds, or an invitation to trust your own inner voice more deeply. Whatever it is, trust that you're capable of meeting it with grace and courage. And lastly, be patient with yourself. Growth, healing, and self-discovery are not linear. Some days, you might feel completely free from the telepathic pull, and other days, it might feel just as strong as ever. That's okay. This is a journey, not a destination. Each moment is an opportunity to learn, to realign, to come back to yourself. In the end, twin flame telepathy isn't something you need to fear or fight. It's simply an experience, a reflection of the deep, mysterious connection you share. But you are so much more than this connection. You are infinite, whole, and complete, with or without it. And when you remember that, when you truly embody that knowing, you'll find a peace that no external connection can shake. So, trust yourself, trust your journey, and trust that you have everything within you to navigate this with wisdom and grace. You've got this. And maybe that's the most beautiful part of it all, that realization that you don't need to sever the connection completely to find peace. You don't need to wage a war within yourself to stop feeling, sensing, or experiencing the energy of your twin flame. Instead, it's about softening into the experience, making room for it without letting it take over your sense of self. You see, telepathy often becomes overwhelming because we resist it. We want it to stop because it makes us feel vulnerable, exposed, or out of control. And who wouldn't want that feeling to end? But what if the discomfort isn't coming from the connection itself, but from how tightly we're holding on to it, or how much we're trying to push it away? It's like standing in a river and trying to block the current with your hands. The more you struggle against it, the stronger it feels. But when you let go, when you stop trying to control it and instead allow the water to flow around you, it stops feeling like an overwhelming force. It becomes just another part of the landscape, something you can coexist with without resistance. So, how do you practice that letting go? How do you shift from feeling consumed by the connection to simply being present with it? Start by noticing when telepathy arises without immediately reacting to it. This might feel strange at first because, let's be honest, when you sense someone's presence in your mind or feel their emotions like a wave crashing into your own, it's hard not to react. But instead of spiraling into thoughts like, why are they thinking of me? What do they want? Should I do something about this? Try simply naming what's happening. Oh, I'm noticing the connection again. That's it. Just acknowledge it, without judgment, without creating a story around it. The simple act of naming what's happening helps create a little distance between you and the experience. It reminds you that while the connection might be present, you are still separate from it. You are still your own being, in your own space, with your own energy. Over time, This practice of observing without reacting builds emotional and energetic resilience. You start to realize that the connection doesn't have to dictate your thoughts, emotions, or actions. It's something that happens, yes, but it's not you. And that awareness is incredibly freeing. Another powerful shift comes when you begin to anchor into your heart rather than your mind. Telepathy often plays out in the mental realm. It's thoughts, impressions, memories, and unspoken communication. But your heart? Your heart is your sanctuary. It's the place within you that holds unconditional love, not just for your twin flame, but for yourself. When you feel telepathy stirring, bring your awareness to your heart. Breathe into it. Feel its warmth, its steady rhythm. You might even place your hand over your chest as a reminder that this is your center, your anchor in the midst of the storm. By coming back to your heart, you're reclaiming your power. You're saying, I choose to stay rooted in love, in presence, in myself. And this isn't about bypassing the connection or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about shifting how you relate to it. Instead of getting swept away by the mind stories, you're grounding yourself in the quiet, steady truth of your own being. You're reminding yourself that you are whole, no matter what's happening in the energetic space between you and your twin flame. There's also something to be said for compassion for yourself and for them. Twin flame connections can bring up so much. Old wounds, fears, desires, hopes. It's intense, messy, and beautiful all at once. And it's okay to feel overwhelmed by it. It's okay to not have it all figured out. What matters is that you keep showing up for yourself with kindness, that you keep choosing to hold space for your own experience, even when it feels confusing or uncomfortable. Compassion doesn't mean excusing behavior or ignoring boundaries. It simply means recognizing that this journey is challenging and you're doing the best you can. It means acknowledging that your twin flame is likely navigating their own version of this experience with their own struggles and growth. And while you can't control their journey, you can control how you show up for yours. You might also find it helpful to practice an energetic release ritual when the connection feels particularly heavy. This could be as simple as lighting a candle, taking a few deep breaths, and saying aloud, I release any energy that isn't mine. I call back all parts of myself with love. Visualization can be powerful here. Imagine any energetic cords between you and your twin flame gently dissolving, replaced by a golden light of healing and protection. And again, this isn't about severing the connection. It's about creating clarity and boundaries. It's about ensuring that your energy remains yours, that you're not carrying emotions or thoughts that don't belong to you. It's about choosing to engage with the connection from a place of empowerment rather than entanglement. At the end of the day, twin flame telepathy is just one part of a much larger journey. It's not the whole story. It's a chapter, a thread in the tapestry of your life. And like all things, it will evolve. As you grow, as you heal, as you deepen your relationship with yourself, the way you experience the connection will change. It may become quieter, more peaceful, or it may fade into the background altogether. But no matter what happens, know this. You are not defined by this connection. You are not at its mercy. You are a sovereign, radiant being with infinite capacity for love, wisdom, and transformation. And every step you take toward reclaiming your energy, every breath you take that grounds you in the present moment, is a step toward greater freedom. So, when the telepathy arises again, and it likely will, remember that you don't have to fight it. You don't have to figure it all out. You can simply pause, breathe, and come back to yourself. Because you are the center of your universe. And in that center, there is peace. There is strength. There is love. You've always had the power. All you have to do is remember. And when you do, everything changes. Not because the connection disappears, but because you change. You become the calm in the storm, the stillness in the chaos. And from that place of inner peace, you can navigate anything life brings your way, including twin flame telepathy, with grace, trust, and ease.